Alrighty, here I am. Okay, we're good to go, Amanda. So, welcome to the Know Your Learning Powers channel. My name is Christina Pickett, and I am a learning consultant, not a tech person. Thank you. A learning consultant, and I'm the creator of the Know Your Learning Powers educational program. So, the purpose of this channel serves as a resource for students to develop the skills necessary to understand what success looks like for them. So if you're a parent, educator, or stakeholder, my hope is that you will share this content to guide students on their journey of self-discovery to empower them to create meaningful connections between their emotional well-being and their success in school and in life. So please take the time to hit the subscribe button to stay connected to the community, and hit the like button, and please share the channel to promote the spirit of community and partnership in this space of social and emotional learning and learning or teaching to the whole child. So today I'm super excited to invite our guest, Amanda McCann. She is a mother, a wife, and we connected as in her position as the National Sales Manager at Find Your Grind. So what is Find Your Grind? So I came across this amazing platform on Instagram, and it was a more progressive way of how our teens and how our youth can figure out who they are and how they can navigate their career and how, what they want to do in their career. So without further ado, and so we can find out more about this amazing platform and the experiences of community partnerships and CTE. Welcome, Amanda McCann. McCain. Am I saying it right, Amanda?
McCann. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Hi, Christina. Thanks for having me on today. Great to see you.
Thank you so much for being here, Amanda, on this Sunday evening.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a great weekend, and this will finish it off.
Yeah, for
sure. To be here with you guys. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Christina, and talk about CTE and career development. It's been really part of my passion, since I fell into it 12 years ago. So super psyched to be here and talk to you about my experience and know your learning powers and how it all relates to Find Your Grind and share more with the group.
Okay, so I'm gonna just hit it off with our first question for you. And please, in the chat, if you have any questions, let us know. Miles is on the line with us as well, supporting us with the technical, is our producer. So he will let us know any questions. So tell us more about Find Your Grind. And I'm specifically interested about the partnerships that you have been able to create across the nation when it comes to CTE and career exploration.
Yeah. So, Christina, I think that, I want to kind of take you back to my history 12 years ago to then make it relevant to what Find Your Grind is and what we're doing here today. So 12 years ago, I kind of fell into the CTE space. I have a degree in social work and was looking for some work and fell into the CTE space in the ed tech world. And my experience over the past almost 13 years has been mostly with CTE and career development across the entire United States. My experience, though, has been mostly with traditional college and career platforms. And traditional college and career platforms really have this big focus around helping students select a career or a career pathway. And it's very linear. It's very take an assessment. Oh, okay, nurse. I love to use that one as an example. You took the interest assessment. Nurse is top for you. After that, what skills do you need to learn to become a nurse? You find out later you don't like blood, but it's too late as a student because now you're in 11th grade and it's too late. And then you're off. And then where does that leave you? So that's kind of been the space that I've been working in over the past, again, almost 13 years. Mm-hmm. Why Find Your Grind appeal to me is it flips that funnel around and it flips that script. So instead of having students focus on their interests and a specific career, it really forces them to think about who they are, what kind of lifestyle they want to live, and what their values are, what their strengths are. I was actually, as you know, Christina, in Atlanta this current week doing a presentation with educators and administrators across the Metro Atlanta area. And something that we've talked a lot about that Find Your Grind does really well is help students think about what kind of lifestyle they want to live and what their strengths are. And so when I empowered that group to think about their lifestyles, they were surprised. They were surprised that that's a different way to think about career planning for students, because typically it's take that assessment and pick a career, pick a pathway, and there you go. And what Find Your Grind does is says, hey, take this lifestyle assessment. Think about how you want to live. Think about who you are, what your strengths are, what your values are, what you do socially. Like, do you want to speak to 75 people every week? Do you want to sit at home and work behind a desk? Where do you want to work? Where do you thrive socially?
Right.
And then how do those two things apply to what careers are out there rather than career first? So, that's really how I kind of came to work for Find Your Grind. Is I was in this space, but found, the product, the company, the ethos really appealing to who I am as a person, to help these kids really think about who they are first.
Yeah, it's such a non-traditional approach, which I love, because I mean, we can't do too much with a traditional approach at this point in time with our students. I mean, we're in a totally different time, and products like Find Your Grind make it whereas though, okay, this can help quicken or have, like you said, inspire, awaken, and make it more exciting for students to say, yeah, I do, because they know what type of lifestyle, but they're not ever asked really that question. Like you said, it's usually just career first and just a very linear pathway, and not a linear path, I should say, not a pathway where you go on and off. You know what I mean? Because you have many different skills, talents, interests. So something like Find Your Grind is going to address that, as well as let you explore some more. Or what I really appreciated about it too was it spells out, or you get a visual of what that looks like. The product is so optimal in that sense that not only you see the words, I'm a connector, humanitarian, entertainer, but I get to see what that looks like in today's world.
Yeah, and I love that you just brought up, that you're connector, entertainer. What did you say? Tell me again your lifestyles. Hold on. I always get yours and mine confused because they're so similar.
I'm a connector, entertainer, humanitarian.
Okay, so mine are, I have connector second. I have leader first, then connector, then humanitarian.
Yep.
So you and I are very similar. I was actually surprised that entertainer was not in my top 3, to be honest.
I know, but you know what? So was I. And people remember the gentleman, the principal. He was an assistant principal who was at the network. And he was like, I don't see myself as an entertainer. But if you get up in front of students every day, there's some entertainer in there.
I wish you could have been there when he shared that with the group, because in his way of saying, I don't agree with this assessment, like that I'm an entertainer, he was entertaining the crowd.
Hello. But again, just our conventional way of looking at a certain characteristic. Find Your Grind allows you to they really dig deep into whoever created those, the background, how they got those characteristics or those attributes. It's on point. Awesome. So let me see here. Yeah. So what impact? Well, you talked a little bit about the lifestyle assessment, but I'm really curious to hear, and I want you to tell the audience, like, what impact, like, what are the impact that you see the lifestyle assessment having on the students when you have these different career fairs or whatever events that you have? When people take the lifestyle assessment, we gave one example of a reaction, but what are some reactions or outcomes that you see?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Christina, back to kind of my story, I got into this because I love to see even just one student confidence level boosted, or one student feel better about themselves, or one student feel successful, and so like I thrive on those one student stories. And the lifestyle assessment has been really powerful to give students words to articulate about themselves. As a parent, I would love if my kids would do this. But as a
Mhm.
parent, imagine when your kids came home and you said, hey, what'd you learn today? What'd you do today? What made you smile today? Whatever question as a parent you ask when your students come through the door. Imagine if they said to you, you know what I learned today, Mom? I learned that I'm a leader, connector, humanitarian. And you can have the conversation about what that actually means for them. I have heard that many, many times the students have those meaningful conversations with their counselors, with their teachers, with administrators, and with parents. But then specifically, to focus on just one student, I would have to say a partner of ours of Find Your Grind is King
Mhm.
George County Public Schools in Virginia. I believe our contact there, Terry Rinko. And every year she hosts a reverse career fair.
I
She
love
had
it.
her students do our lifestyle assessment, and she was working on her preparation for the reverse career fair. And Terry said to me, Amanda, I had a student that was literally in tears. She couldn't talk about herself. She couldn't describe herself. She couldn't go through this. It was so overwhelming for this kid that she had to go take her to the counselor. It was very scary for her.
Mm.
This student took the lifestyle assessment and had 3 words, 3 adjectives to describe herself. And Terry shared with me her confidence just, skyrocketed out the roof because now this student who thought, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I value, now has 3 words to describe themselves that are really meaningful.
I love that. Yeah. Because I mean, even in Know Your Learning Powers and the first module, the first lesson, it is self-awareness.
Yeah.
So, like you said, students, that's one of the main skills that students need,
Yeah.
even to go to their next step post-secondary. They have to understand who they are and how to articulate that. What are their strengths? What are they good at? What do they like to do?
Yeah.
And really own it and know their value, because that's how you get to understand, especially when you go into the workforce, what value you're bringing, your value proposition.
Mhm.
So for a student to, like you said, their confidence goes through the roof because they start out not knowing how they may know, I'm not going to say they don't know, but they don't know how to articulate and
Right.
communicate what those strengths are, what those talents are, and what it looks like in today's world. Because sometimes, we have our imaginations, a lot of daydreamers in the classroom when we were growing up, just looking out the window. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to really articulate so others understand. And
That's
Find
right.
Your Grind allows you to do that in that very short assessment, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I said it just has such an optimal experience. So in the classroom, they know right away and they're able to make those references. So I
That's right,
love it.
Christina, and it kind of creates this more engaged student too.
Mhm.
Students sometimes come in these days, and I'm not saying it didn't exist when you and I went to school, but I think it's an issue really with the flashlight on it right now. The students aren't engaged. I remember when I went to school, there was always a kid, how am I going to use this when I grow up? How am I going to use this next week? There's still that, of course. But there's really a lot of question around, or there's a lot of light around students just not paying attention because they are not engaged. They're
Interesting.
somewhere else. And, Christina, I was talking to you about the presentation that I did last week with the group.
Mhm.
They were adults, right? But where I pulled that information from was directly out of the Find Your Grind curriculum. And what I encouraged everyone to do, of course, they used our assessments, they used our product to get here, but
Mhm.
I encouraged them to list their top 3 lifestyles. So again, mine are leader, connector, humanitarian, and their top 3 strengths. So mine are relationship building, passionate, and taking initiative. And what I then asked everybody is, I was like, how do you think that your students would feel if they could stand up in front of a parent, a classroom, a teacher, a group of 75, whatever, you in the
Mhm.
mirror, and say, here are my top 3 lifestyles that I would like to live, and here are my top 3 strengths. And,
Yes. Yeah.
that confidence is something you can never take away from them when they know who they are.
That's a game changer. And it's so funny because it may take students, counselors, whomever are supporting that student 4 years, maybe 5 years to
Maybe
figure
never.
out,
Yeah.
yeah, figure out what those things are,
Yeah.
their strong attributes, their strengths. So it takes long. And then Find Your Grind, just it's a snapshot. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, very, very
Right off the
interesting to
bat,
go
that's like
through.
the huge focus. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, we want engaged students. So when they know who they are and what value they're adding, they become more engaged.
Yep.
And
That's exactly
because
right.
their confidence is boost, and then they can communicate and articulate to whoever they're working with around schools, outside of schools, when they go to get their first job. Those are the things that many people, adults, look for.
Yeah.
Communication skills right away. Can this person really articulate, what they want to do, where they see themselves, so on and so forth. And if they can't do that or have some challenges in that,
Mhm.
then there's something that they know they have to work on. And
That's right.
find your grind is definitely a solution for sure.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about that question, tell me about yourself. I mean,
Yes.
that is so overwhelming. I actually have a 16-year-old son, and I asked him that, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. I was thinking about it, and I thought, "Can he even answer that question?"
Mm,
His name's Dorian. I said, "Dorian, tell me about yourself, and through the lens of if I were someone interviewing you for a job."
yeah.
And at that point, he had already had a summer job, but that was it, and done some work with family or whatever, but never had to interview for it, and he had no idea why that was important. He was like, "Mom, no one's ever gonna ask me that." I'm like, "Yes, they will, and you've gotta be ready, and it's okay that you're not ready right this second to answer that with me,
Hmm.
but you need to think about who you are and be ready to answer that, if anything, for yourself."
Yeah. And like you said, you become a more engaged learner. And that's really how my philosophy, even in Know Your Learning Powers, that communication and that awareness of self is how you connect to learning.
Yes.
That's
Right.
that bridges that gap, because then it's like, okay, culturally, I know who I am. I know what I like to celebrate. I know what I'm good at. And then from there, you take those things and you connect to things that you're learning in school, in class, outside of home, and it helps you be inspired to keep going. You know, my one son, he just told me, he was like, Mom, I want to do some modeling. I was like, okay. And I always would ask him, like, what is it that you want to do? Like I said, he taught himself to sew over the summer. These are just random things that, from me poking him, like, what do you like to do, Preston? What interests you? Because he's very lackadaisical, kind of introverted, but so so I was like, come on, give me something. But then he started articulating it, and he's an entertainer as well. I forget what his other two, but I know entertainer was one of them. So it's just to have those conversations with our students, with our grandchildren, children, nieces, nephews, students and learners in the community. It's so important. And sometimes, and that's what I appreciate about the product, because it gets it to you right there. So I'm going to go to my next question so we can keep things moving. So what impact do you believe career pathways, we kind of answered this, and CTE programs have on student success? So we
Yeah.
said build confidence. What else?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I'm like, it defines student success. And, I think that as parents, I know that I thought this back when my kids were little. What did success mean? Oh, go to school, go to college, get a job, be rich, right? And that's not what success is anymore.
Mm-mm.
Students living their lifestyle, their ideal lifestyle, knowing who they are, and then translating that into their work or whatever their life looks like, that's success.
Yeah.
And how do CTE programs really blend into that is they start with that career development. They start with that exploration and that first the awareness, then the exploration, and then the preparation along the work-based learning continuum. And they learn about those things, but hopefully they're learning about themselves, but along that way, so that, right, they've got the confidence, they've got the idea for where they want to go. It's not just a linear pathway for them, or if it is, that's what they chose. That's
Yes.
what they want.
Yeah.
And, I think that that's really the biggest impact on success, or what success should look like,
Yeah.
not only from a parent lens, but also from Find Your Grind, is that every one of these kids is an individual. Success is not, did you go to college and do you have a job?
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago when I went to college because I thought that was the right thing,
I
but
know. We see it each and every day, even now as adults. I mean, people have many different paths, and if it wasn't centered around who they were, if they weren't aware at that time, many times it's like they're doing something totally different, or they weren't happy doing what they planned to do, and those are things we want to eliminate. That exploration piece. It was like, really, back then you weren't really exploring anything. You were told to
Right.
go to college or do something with yourself,
Yeah.
get a job.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, to be able to explore, to really find out and connect to who you are. That's the mantra of Know Your Learning Powers, to understand what success looks like for you.
Yeah.
Because everybody, it looks different for everyone,
That's
because
right.
we're all individuals. We all have many gifts and talents. And the journey, because it's not a destination, the journey is identifying what those things are and what that looks like. Because not only career wise, but even having hobbies, even being a fulfilled adult or fulfilled individual. How are you spending your time? What do you like to do in your spare time? All these things you'll identify when your awareness is peaked, and when you're really being intentional, or when your learning is really centered around who you are.
That's
You
right.
know, yeah. So, last and final question, Amanda. Do you see any challenges schools are faced with when implementing career path programs? Like,
Yeah.
what is their need?
I would say, if I had to pick, I'd pick these two. The first is funding, and the second is I'm trying to think of what to call it with like 3 words or less without a sentence. I guess the second one would be like students getting into pathways because they chose them. So funding's easy, right? If you think about, I know you're in Metro Atlanta. There's a lot of career pathways at the schools your kids go to.
Yeah.
They have access to a lot of great things. But in rural areas, not just in Georgia, but across the country, Christina, it's a totally different story. It's not like that, and some of these schools have to pick one pathway. And a lot of times they pick business. So if you're a student, you're in 8th grade, and they're like, okay, excuse me, what CTE classes do you think you want to take? Here are your options: business or finance, and or business and agriculture, or business and that's it. And sometimes these students, they get kind of a disservice, unfortunately, because they don't have access to all the pathways. And so I think that's a huge challenge for schools and districts across the country. I've been doing this for a long time, and I love it when, I talk to rural districts and they're like, we don't have access to all the businesses here because we're in rural, I don't know, Wyoming. But then I talk to LAUSD and they're like, we have so many kids, we have all the businesses, but how do we get the kids to the businesses? So there's kind of that funding challenge, but also that locality challenge. The other challenge, I would say, probably the biggest challenge, is what I hear a lot from CTE directors across the country. And it looks like this. You and I are in the same grade. We'll say we're in 8th grade. We took an interest assessment. I didn't understand mine. I clicked around. I don't care. It's a joke to me. You were serious. You did yours. You got that you should go into health science and a health science pathway. You're on the nursing track. Like that's what you're doing, and you're super excited. I didn't really pay attention to mine. So I'm like, hey, Christina, what are you doing? You said health science. Okay, that's what I'm doing then. I think that's the biggest challenge that schools face right now, is students picking pathways. I give you one example. That's not the only one. But because of their buddies. Picking pathways because the one they wanted was full.
Yeah.
Picking pathways because they don't even know what to pick. They just randomly, you know what? I think I'll do film. And you end up not liking it. And so I think that's a bigger challenge, because when these kids have access to these pathways and programs, they can't take advantage of them if they're not picking them for the right reasons.
Yeah, for sure. So so kind of what you're saying too, it has to be some pre-work, or some time spent in this space of career before they kind of have to make the decisions that they may need to make it intentional and to make it count, if you will.
That's right.
And I know in Georgia, it's even elementary school, they have CTE conversations. They're really big here, as you know, with career pathways. And I think now more than ever, the career conversation needs to happen early. I mean, it's not what do you want to be when you grow up, but it's, again, sparking that interest, really increasing that awareness of who they are as an individual, and honing in on those skills and talents and interest. I said that already, but yeah, the skills and talents that they have within them, and then for the learning to be centered around that. And then I think it would happen more organically, for lack of a better word, when they do get introduced to career paths and career technology and things of that nature. They'll feel empowered because they already have a sense, they have a voice, they have a sense of who they are and what they can offer.
That's
Just
exactly
going
right.
back to that self-awareness piece.
No, that's exactly right. And how, when they receive the message, right? When they receive the learning about what is this pathway or what does it mean to be an engineer or whatever, how, these students are facing with their counselor when they sit down, it would be great for them to know, right, I've done that exploration on myself. I am aware of what I want, what I don't want, who I am, who I'm not, and
Mhm.
really sit down and be able to identify that. I know, you and I both have kids in schools and
Yeah.
public schools. And,
Yep.
when they sit down with that counselor, the counselor's like, hey, what classes do you want to take next year? And, oh, you said business, that's full. What about engineering? What's engineering? Nah, it's not full. So take that.
Yeah.
My older son right now, I can't remember what class he was trying to get into. I think it was a Spanish class, and he couldn't. So he's in biomed.
Wow.
And
What a
honestly,
drastic difference.
yeah,
But
like, and
you
I,
know what? That is another challenge. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
it's between the shortage of staff
yeah,
and the amount of children, especially here in Georgia, the schools are very, very crowded.
yeah,
So, with that being said, it may not even be enough teachers to teach all of the coursework.
that's right.
Let's start there. And to squeeze all this in within those 3 years, 3 or 4 years, that they have available to participate in the pathway. So it is, unfortunately, with resources in the community, outside of the community, with businesses partnering. Because what made me kind of title this talk about community partnerships, because me seeing that Find Your Grind, that's really what you're doing. You're creating these partnerships across the country. Of course, there's a product attached to it, but you're getting so much more. When I was able to, when I was at the networker and experienced the teachers, just their passion about this work and career development and the well-being of children, it's amazing. And I truly appreciate the work that you're doing and your service in this space, because it's, and your passion, because it's needed, it's so necessary just for where we're at in this place, in this time in our society. So I want to thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us this evening. I do have the link to the lifestyle assessment, Find Your Grind. Everything is in this description of this live stream. So if you want to reach out to Amanda or myself, have any other questions about the products and want to bring them into your schools or into your communities. Another thing I wanted to ask you, Amanda, do people use the platform individually? Like, do you get families who
um,
use it, or is it more on a district school level?
because our product's really rooted in the curriculum, which is,
Okay,
used. I know homeschool parents would use it, but rooted in, curriculum is usually utilized in schools.
gotcha.
That's usually where we see it being used. So when a school has access, though, we see the students sharing their work at home.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much for coming in today and talking to us about your career path in this space, as well as Find Your Grind. And thank you for joining us on the Know Your Learning Powers channel. Everybody
Yeah.
have a
Thank
great
you.
evening. And remember, hit the subscribe button, like, and share.